Good afternoon, everybody. If I could have your attention. We'll do some brief announcements before we serve lunch. And obviously, as you know, today, Officer Stockwell is here with his partner, Bear, and he's going to talk about his program and some safety things in regards to the dog and everything else. And just a few things from the police department standpoint, just so everybody knows, and I'll announce it again on our Facebook page. But on March 8th, we're going to be holding a forum. The Uxbridge Coalition is going to be hosting a forum on opiate abuse, on mental health illness, what to look for, those type of issues. And that's going to be March 8th at the high school at 7 p.m. And I strongly encourage you if you can attend. And we'll also be broadcasting that as we do the community policing luncheons. We're broadcasting that over local access cable as well. And I bring that up because it is an epidemic and it is a crisis here in town. And I wanted to publicly thank and acknowledge Fire Chief Kessler and Captain Blodgett, who recently just trained all our officers in the use of Narcan. And we are carrying that in all the cruisers now, and we have utilized it on 2 occasions, so there's 2 lives saved. So we're very thankful for our partners and Team Red for helping us help them and help you, the public. Also, just wanted to remind everybody, remember, now that it's tax season and everything else, that IRS scam that's out there, the IRS is not going to call your house. They're not going to call you. So if you get one of those calls, I want you to hang up immediately. Don't give any of your personal information. I want you to hang that phone up right away. We want to keep you safe. So again, next month, we're going to have someone from the Better Business Bureau here. And she's going to talk about different scams and skimming machines that are out there now. So I think that's going to be a great topic. And we're working on a few things for this coming spring. So hopefully the weather will break soon. I know we got a little tease yesterday at 60 degrees, and then today we're back at 30. But hopefully it's going to warm up real soon. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Marsha, and then while you're eating lunch, Officer Stockwell will present as well. So thank you again for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. Yes. Round of applause for our Chief. I just want to welcome everybody here today. It's nice to see our Friday faces here for Fish. And to remind everybody that this weekend we're partnering with the Uxbridge First Night Committee. We're hosting a leap year breakfast, all you can eat. We do have tickets for sale for breakfast, and we have a nice variety of, the Uxbridge Elderly Connection has put together a nice variety of raffle baskets or gift prizes for you. So check that out and try your luck, okay? All right, we'll just take a moment to give thanks for this nice day, for one another, and for this nice presentation that we are going to hear today from the police department.
Well, good afternoon again, everybody. We're going to start the program today. Just to give you a little background, one of the goals when taking over 2.5 years ago, the police department, was to initiate a K-9 program for a number of different reasons. Obviously for better service to Uxbridge and the Blackstone Valley, and also, we talked about earlier, narcotics. So we applied for a grant through the Stanton Foundation. It was $25,000, and that allowed us to jumpstart this program. It's funding the program, so it's not at tax dollars to this point. We also applied for, when Officer Stockwell graduated, for monies to backfill salary. We were awarded another $14,000. And Officer Stockwell will be attending narcotics school training this coming September. So Bear will have dual-purpose dog. He will track people, apprehend people, and he'll also locate illegal drugs, narcotics. So without further ado, I'll turn the mic over to Officer Stockwell. He can explain a little bit about himself and about his program. But I'm very pleased. He's doing very well. The dog has been deployed. He's doing a great job. He was involved in a cruiser accident recently with Bear. The cruiser was an older Crown Victoria. It was totaled. We're in the process now of rebuilding a new car for him. So he's making the best of a terrible situation right now, but Bear is on patrol, and we're happy that they're both here with us and not injured.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. Can everyone hear me? All right. If I start to get too quiet for you, just tell me to speak up. K-9 Bear is here. He is with me. He's in the truck right now, and I'll bring him in a minute. I just want to go over a couple things. About 10 years ago when I started with Uxbridge, started as a part-timer, one of the things I was interested in was K-9, and I mentioned it to the previous command staff, and I was quickly told that it just wasn't viable for Uxbridge. And when Chief Laurie came in, one of the first things that he wanted to do was implement the program, which was definitely something I want to take advantage of. And here we are 2 years later with a fully functioning program, a successful program, and it's already proved its worth. So we're ready to go with the PowerPoint here. Can you all see that? I'm kind of in the way. This is K-9 Bear. He is a Dutch Shepherd, a little bit different than a German Shepherd. He's approximately 85 pounds now. He can run at speeds up to 30 miles an hour, which if you're a bad guy, you're not getting away. People talk about pit bulls and the strength of their jaw. It's a misnomer. Shepherds have a bite force that's greater than a pit bull. So we all see the force that a pit bull can apply. The police canine exceeds that. Some of Bear and I training that we attended was the Boston Police Academy, K-9 Academy. It's one of the most prestigious academies for K-9 in the country. It was 15 weeks. We're going to attend 6 more weeks of training for narcotics, as Chief Laurie mentioned. The minimum standard for training to keep our certification is 16 hours a month. That is 2 8-hour blocks of training with an instructor. But the training never stops. We train every day, whether on shift or off shift. So with any given week, you're going to have 10 to 20 hours of training with the dog. And the more you put into the dog, the more you get out of it. These are his current certifications. He's certified in obedience, building search, article search, area search, agility, criminal apprehension, handler protection, and tracking. Some of the most important skills that we're going to use in town would be the article searches and tracking. Obviously, handler protection is important to me, and we train all the time. For the purposes of legal purposes for this dog, his primary role is a locating tool. Most people think a police dog, all they do is bite. That's a very small percentage of his job function. His job is to find lost people and lost items, and that's the biggest share of what he's going to do as a police dog in his career. Whether you have a lost child, an Alzheimer's patient that walks away from the residence or a medical facility, anyone that's in need, we can deploy the dog without an apprehension, and he can find them. If it's a suspect that flees from an officer, we can also find them, and determining whether there's going to be an apprehension at the end is up to the handler. The secondary function, as I mentioned, it's the use of force. Just like we mentioned to a couple people earlier, you notice the taser up on my vest. We also carry a firearm. The dog is another tool in use of force. We don't deploy the dog very often, and when we do, it's extremely serious. It's another use of force. We take it very, very, very seriously, and we do follow the standard, which is the Graham versus Connor standard for use of force, and the dog for use of force is another tool. A little bit about what police dogs can do. I mentioned before, you can track and locate lost people or suspects. They can locate lost or discarded items or evidence. Someone breaks into your home, runs out of the house, and discards evidence as he's fleeing from the area. I can deploy the dog, he can go out and he'll track on human scent and he can find those and recover those items. A bad guy, again, flees from a house or goes into another area and barricades himself, we can use the dog to safely apprehend. Again, the handler protection. I'm on the street, my nearest backup maybe 10-15 minutes away. The dog will protect me in a situation where someone is assaultive towards me, which is it's a good feeling to have 85 pounds of dog in the back of the cruiser. And finally, his training upcoming is narcotics, but these dual-purpose dogs can also do explosive and cadaver detection. But we're going to focus on narcotics. Obviously, there's a need in the valley for narcotics detection. All right. Right now, the cost to taxpayers to date for this program, $0. Everything thus far in our program has been funded by grants, gifts, and hard work in repurposing equipment, getting equipment donated from other agencies. We've saved the taxpayers a ton of money by using the grant that we were given judiciously, I will say. The grant that Chief Laurie mentioned, the Stanton Grant, the initial gift from the grant was $25,000 for startup, which is a lot of money, but it went quick. The equipment, minus the cruiser, which we actually repurposed, leashes, training, everything you would need to implement the kennel, all of that came out of that. So he mentioned also we got salary reimbursement. The training was 5 days a week in Boston or other venues, and I was away from the department. So when I was gone, they had to fill my shifts, cost overtime, ultimately came out of the budget. So additional $14,000 was gifted from the Stanton Grant to reimburse all the costs. So that's a huge thing for us. And when I go back for the narcotics training, they'll give me an additional $4,000 to offset those costs. So right now, we're at $43,000 from the Stanton Grant that did not come from anyone in the town. This is a foundation by Dr. Stanton where he had an affinity for dogs and K-9 programs, and this money is allocated to get small communities like us up and running with a K-9, and we can't thank them enough. Based on the total that we received so far, our projected sustainability for the program before we have to go to the town is 3 to 5 years, which for any startup program is pretty good. A little bit about Canine Safety. This isn't just with police dogs, this is with any dog or any working dog. You never want to approach any dog, especially a K-9, without asking the handler first. Even walking down the street, you see an unfamiliar dog, ask whoever's handling them or walking the dog whether you can approach, because some dogs aren't approachable. A police K-9 could be protective of me. We mentioned handler protection, so you don't want to walk up and come right up on the dog because he may do his job and ultimately have an accidental bite. Never attempt to pet the K-9. Again, this can be perceived as a threat. Just ask the handler if it's appropriate. Every situation is different. Sometimes I'll say he's working, it's not a good time. Other times, absolutely. It's just case-by-case dependent. And his body language is going to dictate whether it's safe or not to approach the dog. And part of my training is to be able to identify certain behaviors in the dog. So just ask the handler. The distance between you and the K-9 when you're speaking to me, if I have the dog and he's sitting next to me and you walk up on an angle at me, he's going to perceive that as a threat. So just be careful of your distances. You don't want to too close. Some people are close talkers. Dogs don't like that. If you see a patrol vehicle and it has a K-9 sticker on it, you want to give that a little bit of distance. Dogs are very protective of the K-9 cruiser. That is their spot, and if you come up to it, it's going to cause him undue stress. He's going to start barking. If you inadvertently walk by the cruiser, it's not a big deal. You're not going to harm the dog, but he's going to let you know he's there. Okay. And again, we mentioned before, if you're a criminal, please do not run. He will catch you. He will bite you. We don't need that. So the best thing you can do, if a police officer with a K-9 says stop, you should stop. I don't think we'll have that issue in this room. All right. And one of the big things is people like to agitate police dogs, especially if they're in the cruiser. We're not going to have an issue with you guys in this room, but there are people out there that want to assault or torment or beat or kick a dog. If you do any of that or even interfere with this police dog doing his duties, you are subject to arrest. And we want to get that out to the public, because if you do anything like that to this dog, you will go to jail. In the town of Uxbridge, you absolutely will go to jail. Okay, any questions? Anything I didn't cover? If you think of something along the way, feel free to ask me, whether it's today or 6 months down the road. It's a learning curve for all of us. I learn something every day, and I try to pass it along. Ma'am?
How long will you be able to keep this dog, and what happens to him at the end of his duty?
Excellent question. Most career dogs, they are approximately 8 years. He's 2 now, so he'll be about 10 years old, so it's probably a good time to retire him. And our policy actually states he will retire with the handler. So at the end of his career, he'll come home with me. Anybody else? Yeah?
With all those bomb threats in schools out there now,
Yep.
if there was one in Uxbridge, heaven forbid, did you use a dog to check the school?
Absolutely. Canine Bear is not a bomb dog, but the good thing about being having a canine unit in town is because it's a small community, we have resources where I can reach out to all the other canine units in Massachusetts, and I can say, Town of Uxbridge just received a threat. Can I get a bomb dog to Uxbridge? And those guys will come down here on their own time and help us out. Anytime that we have any issues where we need multiple dogs or we need assistance with a dog in town, it's just a phone call away. And that's a resource that I can provide through the connections we've made, which is outstanding. Sir?
Oh, yes, I was just curious, is the dog going to be used for mutual aid purposes? And if so, what surrounding towns do you think he might be used for?
There's no limit to the surrounding towns. If an agency calls and the chief allows, I will go anywhere. Anyone else? Yep, without further ado, I'll go get him.
So while Officer Stockwell is grabbing his partner, just to explain a few things too further, the Blackstone Valley is excellent. We work very well together, mutual aid. I'm glad that question was asked. We're also a part of a consortium. It's called the Central Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council. And I think I've discussed it before, where I was involved in it on many levels on the SWAT team. I was an entry member, a team leader, and ultimately I was team commander. And I was recently asked to take over as unit control chief. And we had a meeting yesterday with other chiefs that are in charge of accident reconstruction. They're in charge of the motorcycle unit and those in the SWAT team. And we're also going to be venturing out into the SEMLEC K-9. So there's going to be a SEMLEC team of all K-9 handlers they'll try out for across the state. So when there's an issue, we can contact, there'll be a particular agency, a page will go out to whoever's the on-call K-9s are. So it's not just always Officer Stockwell. It's not just always Uxbridge going, to help everyone. There'll be probably 15 different dogs and handlers involved. So we're all sharing the cost. Because for years, we didn't have a dog. We would call other agencies. So now it's our way, Uxbridge, of paying it back, paying it forward to assist. And we're very thankful. Sutton has a K-9. Douglas has a K-9. Oxford has a K-9. Millbury. Just the other day, Millbury Police came out and assisted us with a narcotic sweep that we needed. So we all work together, which is absolutely fantastic in this area because obviously we're not large areas, but together we do get the job done. So I'll let you meet our newest officer, K-9 Bear, and we're very pleased and proud to have him with the agency. And again, thank you for your attention.
All right, this is Canine Bear. I mentioned before he's a Dutch Shepherd. You can tell his coloring and his coat is a little bit different than a regular German Shepherd. He's a short hair brindle. You can see the pattern. Does anyone have any further questions before we just kind of walk around and get to meet him? Oh, I'll bring him right over to you. Feel free to ask me any questions on the way by. He is very sociable, but he's not at work right now. If I tell him to start doing his job, he'll do his job. And that's where we're fortunate. Not a lot of canines have that ability to turn it on, turn it off. And in Uxbridge, we are community policing oriented, and this is a perfect fit for us. All right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you again, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. Thank you again.
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's big for a Dutchman. He's a big Dutch Shepherd.
It wasn't on CNN.